Hey YouTube, this is a video, well, not hey YouTube, this is specifically to you, James. I want to answer your question. You asked me, Dear Alec, I pretty much agree with you. However, before I can answer your question, I need to know exactly what you mean by the point of no return. What problems in America do you believe are reaching the shatter point? What outcome do you predict if the American people don't turn things around? The American empire is collapsing, just like all other empires before it, crumbling under the march of progress. But is this the threat of a Christian theocracy you fear? That is one of the things. I highly suggest you go to the Young Turks and look up the debt ceiling deal. Um, but you don't have to do that. Look at the riots that are happening outside of America. I'm not a prophecy like 2012 retard. We are running out of time in a practical, physical way. This is going to be an absurd example. It's going to be, what is it? What is the law where you're not supposed to mention Nazis? But I'm going to mention Nazis. Not for the reason you think. The Treaty of Versailles. What could make some of the most sophisticated people in the world, the most technologically advanced, most rationalist people on Earth at the time, even be susceptible to someone like Hitler? Poverty, inflation, no safety nets, no entitlements, at an absurd level. They're cutting Medicare, they're cutting Social Security, they're trying to cut welfare, they're doing everything they can to keep us from having socialized medicine. That puts us in a place when people are desperate, they will do things for very little reason. Look at what's happening with the riots. They're doing it for no reason. They need zero reason. They're just like, we're mad, arg! And they're just like blowing shit up, like not even like, oh, we lost at soccer, let's tip over a cop car. They're throwing Molotov cocktails at the cops. Recently, corporations are scared in America that we're gonna riot, so the government allowed them to buy Predator drones. I'm going to repeat that. If you're a multi-billion-dollar company, you are allowed to purchase Predator drones. Go to the Young Turks video. If I'm misunderstanding what that video is saying, oh god, I hope I'm misunderstanding what that video is saying. They can't arm those drones for you. But there's nothing in the law that says once they sell it to you, you can't arm them. It is, again, by the way, a shatter point is the opposite of the point of no return. First comes the shatter point, where you have a chance to shatter. For instance, Hitler. Let's say you were to go back in time. I'd say there are about 3 shatter points at which you should execute, or which you should stop Hitler. One, when he's little, around 8 or something, before he gets abused. Raise him separate from the incident. You might even want to kidnap him if you're time traveling, and just get him as far away from where he was as you possibly can. 2, the art school thing. Divert him or help him pass art school. 3, the Valkyries tried that. You know the story of the Valkyries. That's an example of a shatter point. If they would have killed Hitler at that point, it would have brought everything down. It would have stopped a sequence of events. Most of the time, we only see a sequence of events in hindsight. When you see a sequence of events in foresight, that's called when you strike at a crucial point and you stop that chain of events. That's called a shatter point. If you pass that threshold, you're at the point of no return. Now, that doesn't mean you can never recover, but that event is going to happen. We are running out of time. The theocracy. You asked me, is it the religious theocracy I'm talking about? There's something I called scaffolding. When you have scaffolding, for instance, ethnic cleansing really can't survive on its own. You couldn't have gone to a prosperous Germany. I mean, you could have done propaganda, but saying that they would have killed the Jews had they not been bitter, angry, dejected, crushed, ashamed, basically feeling like scum, is like saying that you could run anti-Jew propaganda in Britain and have them just randomly kill all the Jews. We both know that's probably not going to happen. That's called scaffolding. That's called a state of affairs with which people are waiting for something to fill that. Look at the riots. One cop was killed. I guarantee you 90% of the people rioting don't know at all what the hell they're rioting about. Think about that. Thousands of people are rioting for one incident that they don't even know about. That's called scaffolding. That's been building up in Britain for a while. America has been kept complacent. Our eyes are closed. But that's the worst part. When your eyes are closed, when you do rise up, you don't know what you're fighting against. You're fighting against nothing, a concept. Just like the riots that are happening in Europe right now. Could a religious theocracy take hold? Yeah. So could a fascist dictatorship. So could a socialist utopia. Those things can happen because we are in a place where the support for these things is there. We are broken, we are dejected, and if the economy gets worse without a safety net, that's a mitigating factor. You either need no safety nets and a prosperous society, or safety nets to keep people from walking in bread lines. You need to be able to feed your people. They need to feel like they're not about to die. The utopian idea is probably what the United Kingdom has, or would have, if we were all more prosperous. Prosperity and safety nets for those who aren't prosperous. Remember, trickle down doesn't work. It goes from the bottom up. That is prosperity, from the bottom up. It always has been, it always will be. We are in a place where the religious theocracy, yeah, that's possible. I'm a secularist. That is one of the most important aspects of my personality. That matters more to me than anything else I can think of right now. But that's not what I'm talking about. Is it possible? Oh, most certainly. Look at the situation. Look how many bills they're trying to pass. Anti-women bills, anti-gay bills. They're just... And Obama is a conservative. He is not a progressive. He may be a Democrat, but he gave up Medicare and Social Security. The Republicans didn't even mention that. He put that on the table. He is not fighting for America at all, for the Democrats. He is fighting for the big companies, which is a problem, because the Democrats are supposed to function as a stopgap. Every maybe 5 Democratic presidents, we get a Bill Clinton. But mostly, life leans left. All you need is a Democratic president to stabilize things, and things will naturally get more liberal because we don't want a small group of rich white people telling us what to do. Obama is not acting as a stopgap right now. He didn't run on fixing the economy. He ran on social change. But he focused this whole term on fixing the economy, and he did horribly because it took years to destroy the economy. That's what I thought. Now I know that he had no intention of helping the lower and middle class. That was a full... He put Medicare and Social Security on the table. If we remove those entitlements, and Wall Street fails, and Main Street gets worse, I guarantee you we will either have a Nazi situation or a Great Depression. Again, that too is a shatter point. It depends on what happens when, which way will lean. Because Howard Bloom said this best. People don't revolt when they're at their lowest point, because for several social evolutionary reasons, when you have nothing, you can't risk it, you're actually at a greater risk of diminishing returns. When things are close to being bad or getting a little better is actually when people riot. Look at the riots in the Middle East. They weren't at their worst. Things were getting a little better slowly, and then people saw how it felt for things to get a little better, so they started peaceful protest. Um Basically, depending on when social unrest occurs is whether we're going to have a Great Depression or something like, I'm not going to say ethnic cleansing is going to happen. Obviously, that's an exaggeration. But what I am saying is that the religious theocracy can happen in these conditions. We can't separate social issues from economic issues when we're going to slip into a Great Depression, because that's what tyranny feeds off of. Even rational people will give in to tyranny if they're starving to death or if they're afraid they might. That's what I'm worried about. If a Republican gets elected, we miss the shatter point. So we're stuck voting for Obama. If Obama gets reelected and keeps acting like a Republican, it's the same as if he was a Republican. If perhaps he was doing what most presidents do and wait to be progressive until after he gets elected a second term and he doesn't have to worry about, then that would be, he would have shattered it. He will be able to fix things. That's what I meant when I said the point of no return. I mean the point at which we get to a place where we're both the cats, the people who you can't herd, like atheists. There is a point at which they will give in. You had your Einsteins who left Germany and stuff, but again, the Germans were some of the most sophisticated people, and they became some of the most vile people. I wouldn't have stood by and watched what happened. You could say, well, anyone can say that, but there were people who fought back. There were saboteurs. They got killed, and there were people who fled. I would probably flee and try to raise awareness in another country because I'm not strong. That's not the point. The point is, again, I am not an alarmist. I'm just seeing a pattern that has repeated in history. I'm not extrapolating a long time away. I never do that. Economics is not my field. I have no field. I wash dishes at KFC. Yeah. I'm not a scientist, but I do care about history. I read a lot about history. People make mistakes when they try to extrapolate forward a long time. No one can. Chaos theory makes it impossible. But we're close to the point of no return. I truly believe that. If certain events occur, it's over. At least for this country. Remember when I said America might infect the rest of the world? Because of the economy bullshit that we started, there are riots in Europe. Yeah, there are other aspects too. But we both know that the UK got hit the most by our money troubles. We are intertwined. And it at least in part led to some of those riots. People are bitter and people are poor, and the gap between the rich and poor is increasing. I'm going to try and make this less than 15 minutes, so I have another video I'm going to make to you. Until my next video, try to make the world a better place. You, James, I know you will. And I'll try too. I'm trying now.